Hi, my name is Philip Zeppelin, and you are watching well, I really should think of a name for this show. It would be really cool if I could open up with, you are watching the Philip Zeppelin Show. Nonetheless, jokes aside, today I'm going to show you how to mask out hair. And hair has long been one of those annoying things that are just an absolute pain to mask out. Luckily, today I will show you some tips and tricks to make that not necessarily easier, but get some perhaps get some better results. So with that said, let's get started. The first thing that we want to do is duplicate the layer so we can make a mask for it, and then go into channels. If you can't find channels, make sure you have it checked in Windows, and we want to select the channel that makes the image that we want to select the most white. In this case, obviously it's going to be red, because as we can see here, there's a lot of yellow and reddish tones in it, but otherwise, you just sort of cycle through the different ones, but obviously here red is the one to go for. And we just duplicate that layer and then go into levels, and we want to make it as completely white as possible, without losing too much detail. So let's see, something like this looks pretty good. And I'm not gonna talk too much about we're not gonna bother really doing anything to remove the hair from her head, because that is the easy part. The difficult part is obviously keeping all the tiny little details, so I'm not gonna bother masking out the head very much. But while we're here, take a soft white brush and paint in where you also want it to be. Well, I suppose actually we could just take the lasso tool here at first and just make some big selections to places that we know we want completely white, and then just fill it with white. And you don't have to do this too much, but the more the better. As I said, this might not be the fastest way to select hair. Obviously, if you didn't know, the fastest way would definitely just be to go here, use the quick selection tool, and then go into mask edge settings and just accept what you sort of get out of it, which is also really decent sometimes. But I'm going to go out of my way here to sort of show you some extra funky ways to select here, so you have some options the next time that you're gonna do this. Actually, I don't want to select the body because, well, or too much of it anyway, because that might confuse mask edge later. So just make that black. Doesn't have to be super precise, but, and I just see we have some little areas here that stand out, so just use the levels tiny bit until it disappears. So and that's fine, and then we can just paint it. Okay, so control click that, and then select all your normal layers again, and then just make a mask. And to see what we're doing, I'm just gonna make a new layer here. Oh, come on, move, and fill it with red. Oh, so as you can see, it's actually a pretty decent overall selection. As I said, I don't want really the head or body showing too much, so I'm just gonna quickly roughly paint that out on the mask, just so Photoshop isn't confused on what we want and what we don't want. And now that we have the image, we can see a few things a little bit better. And just making this solid white. That one too. And that should be good enough. The next thing that we're gonna do, whoops, that's my actions. Next thing that we're gonna do is go into mask. Again, if you don't have it, make sure it's here. And click, when selecting the mask, click mask edge. And we're gonna go into and check smart radius. And basically let Photoshop do some of the work. And exactly where the best settings are sort of change per image, so all you can do is mess around with it to see where the best is. You might want to take in the edge just a little bit. Let's see what if we just a lot of the time, just the more space you actually give Photoshop to work with, the better. Not always, but sometimes. But it's basically just sort of going through. And actually I sort of like this, except now you are supposed to be able to paint out and say, hey Photoshop, I don't want these areas, but as you will see, usually it just completely ignores that. No, that did work this time. That's wonderful. A lot of it seems like a very buggy feature from Adobe, and a lot of the time I'll mask out places of the image where I'm saying, hey, I don't want this, and it just completely ignores what I did and keeps it anyway. But yeah, that looks good. Let's click OK to that one. So yeah, now see the last part, and well, we have a few minor problems. We have the dark areas here. We can see if we can fix that with levels. And if you have no idea how I did that, I did it by clicking on the mask and then just going into levels. But the problem is we don't want stuff like that, but we do want to keep the detail up here, but we can probably bump it up just a tiny bit. Anyway, something you should know always, if you're going to replace the image with, you know, a one solid color background like this, it will almost never look good. It will always be obvious unless you accept that you're not going to have the detail in the hair. That's just how it is. So, you know, if you can, try to add some textures or color variations or stuff like that, because this will never be optimal, so to speak. So, duplicate our hair layer. I suppose I should call it hair, just so this is easy for us. And then call the second layer hair light, and just hide the other one. Then not on the mask but on the actual layer, go into layer, go into levels again, and basically pump up pump it up really high. It's all about finding the right spot spot, but you basically want to pump it up so high that all the black areas that we really didn't like before are gone. So this is I think as close as we get. That's pretty good. But I can already hear you saying right now that, hey, but I don't want lighter hair. I like the other color. So this isn't gonna work for me. Fear not. You control click the mask, go into modify contract, but not by very much this time, just by 3 pixels. Make sure that there's no that nothing inside the hair, so to speak, is selected. So just take the lasso tool and whoops, wrong way around, there should be added. Obviously we haven't inverted it yet, so should be selected. And just go around here, make sure there's nothing inside, because that will create some problems, I promise you. It's just the worst ones there. And again, this would be a lot easier for me if my computer wasn't really lagging. So this looks good, and I'm gonna invert that, select, modify, feather, and this time by around maybe 4 pixels. That's good. And then fill that with black, and you see what we have now is a really nice selection. There's perhaps a few tiny areas where we can just fill in with white if we really want to, like here where you can see the selection got a little bit off. But overall nothing big. And in the end, we have a really solid hair selection now, and we've gotten rid of almost all these little abstract things on the side, but we still have a lot of the detail because we have this top layer here. So, and to show you how much detail we still have, if we turn this layer black instead, and compare it to the hair, and see we still have most of the detail in the selected hair. Obviously not all of it, but you will lose something every now and then, but most of the detail is indeed still here. Obviously the darker, as you can see here, the darker you go, the better it looks. So I have, and in general, the more varied backgrounds that you have. So I have a little picture that I took here a while ago that we are going to use as an example. And you can see the second we have all these other things here, the selection just looks absolutely normal. There's no problems whatsoever. If you think it looks weird without a head, I suppose that's true, but we shouldn't care about her head at the moment, should we? So that is really nice when you put it to a background. But the technique I showed you won't always work. And let's just work on this. So I'm gonna merge everything down, and now we have this image, and let's extract the hair again, because this time obviously we do not have the choice of just selecting a nice black background or light hair. We can't do anything with a Luma matte because the grass in the back is bright too, so that's not really gonna work very well for us. So again, duplicate the layer, and this time go into select color range, because here we have all these this green grass. So hold down shift, and then just select all this green grass. And as you select, you'll start seeing that our hair is standing out. And in this case, it's because now we're not selecting on brightness, we're selecting on color. Much more, well, we were selecting a bit on color before too, but the brightness has a lot to do with that. And mess around with the fuzziness to get the best selection, really. There's a couple of places more that we really don't want. You just want to click like mad, really. Do be wary of accidentally clicking on something that actually has the same color as the hair, because then you have to, in some cases you have to start over if you kept clicking, so you can't just undo that one click, which is horribly annoying. I know there was some flowers over here. Was that it? Nope. I'm being a little bit careful now. If I wanna none, yeah, those are the flowers right there. So I don't want to select them. How about that one? Oh, that one's fine. So now we have something that looks pretty good. And we're gonna click OK, inverse the selection, and make a mask. And again, let's just well, this time let's try with a green one. Well, I suppose green is cheating, really, because then you won't see all the artifacts, really, because this is green too. So just so I won't be called a cheater, let's make it purple-ish. So you can see this is actually already a really solid selection what we have here, just from using the color range selection. Again, let's go into still my actions. Let's go into masks again and click mask edge. And again, turn on the smart radius a little bit. Can always help. We don't need it too much in this case, but what we do like here is the option to decontaminate colors, which can really help getting rid of some of the green that we have in the image. But in this case, when we look at it, it's looking already really clean. So just click OK. And there we go. Obviously we have a few artifacts from the original selection that we don't want, but we'll just very quickly select them with the lasso here. Yeehaw! And yeah, just fill with black. And let's be honest, that's a really solid hair selection. On, you know, if we're looking at the original here, this hair that is looking really good for this selection. But I have another picture here that's going to be even more difficult. So I'm gonna copy that and paste that in here. Again, you can see how clean the hair selection actually is and how well it works. So really, this is definitely worth it. But yeah, let's just merge everything down. Now obviously here we can't just select the background, because the background is so many different colors that that's just not gonna work, and the light in the ice is gonna mess up the selections up here, and the white in the hair. So all in all, that will just not work out very well for us. We do, however, have a couple of other tools that we can use instead. First is, of course, Adobe's Quick Selection tool, which is just going to help us quickly get the basic mask. You can either drag. I sometimes prefer clicking because it can go a little crazy sometimes and select a whole lot of stuff that you really don't want selected. We're just gonna say, hey, we want these things here. And obviously this is gonna be a pretty difficult selection, but this is the one choice where we go in and select this. We could also have used just a brush for selecting this, or for the same thing as last time, duplicate the layer, go into select color range, and instead of the background, then this time we're gonna choose the image. Select all the colors in the hair. Now as you can see, we do run into some problems with the background, but hopefully we'll fix most of those in a second. Now this doesn't have to be a perfect selection, and it won't anyway. It won't be a perfect selection, so that's easy enough to get around. So, whoops, like so. We can mess with the fuzziness. In this case, we do want it quite fuzzy. How about around 30? So we got that. Gonna make a mask again. Let's make a new layer so we can see what we're doing. Maybe brown is cheating a bit because now we're coming from brownish colors, and I do dislike being called a cheater. So how about a light blue? Will that satisfy you, good sir? Here we go. And just again with the lasso tool, we're just gonna go like this around the hair really quickly. There's really nothing to this. Like so, inverse that, and just, you guessed it, fill it with black. And now let's, with the mask selected, go into, you guessed it, masks and mask edge. Go into smart radius and just pump it up. Now don't worry about big things like this. The big things are the easiest to get rid of anyway. And as I said, it sometimes takes a bit of a guessing to see exactly which setting works best. It's actually quite a pretty picture like that. Unexpected results, but does look quite pretty. But in this case, I think some of the earlier settings work better. Up at around here, and of course decontaminate colors as always. And let's see if this is gonna work this time. I'm not entirely sure. Let's see. It did. That's wonderful. Well, continue working while I'm saying no. I really don't want this. Nah, no, it won't. But we can do some light selections here and say, hey, we don't want this. Nope. Ignoring that one. Ignoring that one, are you? And we can say slightly we do want the areas here. And let's click OK to that for now. But obviously this is not a selection that, this is not a usable selection, so to speak. But now we have something semi decent. So we're gonna take our brush and with a black one, just mask out all the stuff that you on the obvious areas don't want. And we're basically gonna do this again and again and again. And you don't have to be the most precise and amazing masker for this, but obviously the more effort you put into it. I'm just gonna remove the arm at this point. Who needs arms anyway? Well, probably crippled people really want arms, I suppose. Sorry. Nonetheless, sidetracking there a bit. But no, you just wanna, with a black brush, draw around and make sure that it's getting cleaner and cleaner. And then again, we're gonna go into the mask etch again. Go into Smart Radius and crank that sucker up. And see, now you'll start to see something interesting. You can see that this selection around here looks good, but this area here looks really bad. Well, we don't really care. We just say okay to that anyway. And click OK and wait. And we're going to call this one let's see, we're going to call this one top right, because the top and right sides are what we like. There's a little tiny one there, but we can actually mask that one out manually if we wanted to. And then duplicate it, hide it, and go into mask edge again. And this time focus on the left side and see if there's a setting that makes it better or worse or whatever. Otherwise, we just go out and basically mask a bit again. You can see the main problem here is probably this here that is confusing Photoshop on what we really want in the image. So we're going to constrain Photoshop's options a little bit by saying, hey, no, we really just want that hair. So let's see how that looks. Turn on Smart Radius, bump it up a little bit. You can see that it's doing considerably better this time around. Oops, too much. And something like this. So that is probably as good as we're gonna get with that super messy background. Nonetheless, let's put it on put in a different background image again. So I have here just gonna find them, some pictures from a rainy day. So let's just take that and smack it in here so we can kind of see. And honestly, when we got a normal background again, it really doesn't look too bad, considering that this is a hair selection that we've selected, merged down, selected again. That is really not too shabby. Really not too bad at all. But this concludes basically what I wanted to show you about selecting hair. Obviously, as I said in the beginning, the quickest way is just to take the quick selection tool, mask it out, put it over in Mask Edge, and see what you get. And there are actually some situations where that is a very valid choice, to do, and I'm gonna show you why. Here we have the original image, but let's say that you just wanted to change the background a little bit. You know, let's say you wanted, you were thinking to yourself, well, I really like this image, but the black background just really doesn't do it for me. I want to change it just a bit. Well, duplicate and just basically select your heart out. And just do a real quick selection. Make the small brush a little bit smaller. Something, yeah, it's a bit clickety clackety, isn't it? But something like so. Doesn't have to be particularly perfect. And just make a mask. Go into Mask Edge. In this case, let's see it with an overlay here so we can see a bit better what we're doing. And just do something like that, and then Shift Edge so it goes in. Maybe to something like that. Obviously you might want to actually do a little bit more work, but this is the basic idea. I'm just gonna show you quickly. And what you want to do is not change anything here. Don't put any new layers. Change the original image. So if we go into the original one and we want it slightly lighter background, do like this maybe, and we wanted to change the color of it a bit. We wanted maybe something a bit more warm. Voila. Obviously, as I said, you want to actually do a little bit more focus on the little areas here, but that is the basic idea. And the reason why this would work better than putting in a lot of new layers, if you want to just change the background a little bit, is because we don't care that we don't select all the fine hair. We don't care that that gets colorized with the background, because that's actually the way light works. That's the way hair works. That's the reason Photoshop Mask Edge has something called decontaminate colors. It's because hair takes on the color of the background because it's so tiny. So that actually just looks as it usually would. Honestly, just already this, considering it was a selection that I did in what, around 30 seconds, 1 minute maybe top, it really could be worse. Anyway, so that was how you can select here. A couple of new methods that I hope that maybe you didn't know, maybe you did know. Nonetheless, I hope that this was useful for you, and of course feel free to check out some of my other tutorials, both on photo retouching and photo manipulation, and if you're a photographer, perhaps check out some of my Photoshop actions. Anyway, my name is Philip Seplin, and thank you for purchasing this tutorial, and have a nice day.